Our new Premier David Eby was sworn in on November the 18th, and he got to work pretty quick because on the following Monday, on November 21st, he announced the Housing Supply Act and Building Strata Statutes Amendment. Not only was it announced on the 21st, but rather unbelievably, the strata matters went to royal assent and were quickly approved on November the 24th. Yes, that's 3 days later. Didn't take time, very much time, for them to push this through. Obviously something they've been working on for a while. There was no debate, just a full approval with absolutely no transition time. It is in action now, so it's not a matter of waiting until January the 1st or some other approvals. It is done. So I want to talk about Bill 44, the two items, the two strata items. The first one is Section 123, and this is in regards to age restrictions. Many strata buildings, particularly here in Greater Victoria, have had restrictions. They might say 19 and over, or sometimes 30 and over, 40 or over. 55 plus is a common age restriction. There's a lot of buildings out there that are really meant for seniors or more mature owners. It's like a lifestyle choice. So the first thing is 55 plus buildings still exist. So that does not change. However, everything else is gone. No more 19 plus, no more 16 plus, no more 30 plus. There are no more age restrictions. Now, what stratas can do is they can limit the number of occupants in a building. So they could say maximum of 3 people in a 2-bedroom unit, for instance. We do see that every once in a while. I think the purpose for this is to enable families to have their chance at owning real estate, because of course a strata, a condo for instance, is a great way for a family to start. Or it happens often where people buy a condo in an age-restricted building and then their lives change. Maybe they are expecting a baby, and sometimes that has forced them to move onwards where perhaps they didn't want to. So that's the first one. No more restrictions on age in stratas in British Columbia. Second one is Section 141, and that is the abolishment of rental restrictions. So there have been a lot of buildings out there where owners basically state they don't want any tenants. They just want to be owner occupied. I know, I lived in one for a few years in Fairfield. There are other buildings that limit the number of rentals. They may say a maximum of 20% of the complex or a maximum 5 in the building, for instance. But as of now, with Bill 44, stratas are no longer able to have rental restrictions. Now, you might ask yourself, does this mean that we can have short-term vacation rentals in buildings now? No, for a couple of reasons. Number one is it always boils down to zoning and approved use. So short-term vacation rentals must be in what's known as transient zoned buildings. That's the first thing. But the second thing is there is a difference between business use, like an Airbnb or a VRBO, or residential tenancy use. So the thing that stratas may do is they may have minimal duration time. So they might say minimum 30 days or minimum 60 days. Again, this is all meant to increase the rental stock out there in British Columbia. Now, the other interesting thing about the rental aspect is stratas can now issue notice to end tenancy. If there is, for instance, a problem tenant in the complex, the strata itself can apply for dispute resolution at the residential tenancy branch on behalf of the landlord. So that gives extra power to landlords and stratas in the case of problem tenants. I find that one really, really interesting. There are a couple of misconceptions out there. One in particular is that you can still have rental restrictions in buildings that are 55 and over. Well, a whole bunch of us in Victoria attended a seminar this morning by a prominent strata lawyer here in Greater Victoria, and he clarified that this is absolutely not true. So if you're in a 55 plus building, you are still under the rule, which is Section 141, which states that you're no longer able to have rental restrictions. So that one is a big one that's come up quite a bit. These rules do not apply to mobile homes on rental pads, for instance, or co-ops. Let's talk about pros and cons right now about Section 123 and 141. The pros: it's meant to increase the rental stock here in British Columbia, and I think it probably will. Right, it is putting out there a number of strata condo units and townhouse units that were not previously able to be rented. This is also a pro from the context of investor opportunities. So it gives investors a lot more options out there that did not exist before, right? And the other pro is if you're a current owner in a strata condo building, you have the option now to keep your unit for rental and then move elsewhere. That's something that I wanted to do with my property in Fairfield many years ago, but there were rental restrictions, there were age restrictions. I had to sell, had to move on. Missed that place. Wish I still had it. Couple of cons though, mind you. First one, and it's a big one, is when these changes have happened, the first sets of buyers, for instance, young buyers in buildings that were meant to be 19 plus and 30 plus, or renters in buildings that used to have rental restrictions, there will be disgruntled neighbors. There's no question. So many people bought in buildings under the premise that they're adult oriented and there were no rentals. And of course now the province has said, no more, you've got to listen to us. Really interesting. And the other thing too is as we move along here, and as I said a moment ago, investor opportunities buying up more of these rental properties, we do feel that there could be increasing property values as more investors enter the market. So this has nothing to do with affordability. It's not going to make things out there cheaper. It will certainly help in the rental marketplace as there are more properties for rent. Now, the last thing is, what I don't want to discuss here is it's the Housing Supply Act. It was launched at the same time as Bill 44. It relates to the province being able to set municipal housing targets. So this is all in an effort to increase housing supply, which is a shift from the government's efforts in past, which have mainly been to control demand. Remember, they put on foreign buyer tax, they put on speculation and vacancy tax, trying to say, don't buy here anymore, we don't want more buyers. Well, hey, listen, in the past couple of years, we have found we didn't need foreign buyers or foreign investors. The Canadian buyer did a pretty good job of snapping up properties and buying all over the place, all by themselves. So kudos to the provincial government for finally stepping up and saying, let's build more supply. Now, on the other hand, I think it's going to be an uphill battle because I know a lot of municipal politicians, I don't think they're going to be liking hearing this decree from the provincial government, but only time will tell. Anyways, thanks for watching. Like or follow us for more local information here in Greater Victoria and in the region.